Hey, we're back at Teed Up Indoors for Jay Ramey with the Rockingham County High School football review. The recent Reedsville Rams results, and Jay, the Rams appear to be ready to roll again. Talk about the game you saw last week, Jay. And Jay, again, is from Rockingham County Community College, early college, 15 years old, the prodigy, the phenom. He's with us. Good to have you along. And talk about the game you saw last week.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. It was a gritty win. They beat the Western Alamance Warriors 36-28. And they didn't really expect for it to be this tough of an opponent, but they're led by a familiar face, Eric Teague now. He's taking over for his Hall of Fame father, and, it was a tough win, but they may have needed a win like this. These are the types of wins you want to get early in the season and get them out of the way so that you can be better prepared for the rest of the season when the tough challenges come.
When I read your article at GreensboroSports.com, Jay Ramey with us from Rockingham County and covered that game Reedsville last week against Western Alamance, the impression I got, this was almost like a playoff game. It was close because early on it never really got out of hand. It was always close the entire game. You saw that one play where the ball was kicked off the goalpost, they missed it off the crossbar. All those things you find in a key playoff matchup. You saw in that game in the first game of the season last week between two powerhouses.
Yeah, we in the press box, we were utterly surprised that Reedsville was actually pulling it out at halftime because it seemed that the Western Alamance Warriors were winning on everything, but they were just getting some unlucky breaks, and that happened on the Reedsville side too.
Talk about some players on Reedsville that really showed out last week, and showed up and showed out. Jarrell Cobb, the quarterback, I think, had a heck of a game for them last week.
Jarrell Cobb's the running back.
He's running back, talk about him.
He had 167 of the 200 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. He was only hindered by the fact that he got injured a couple of times. He kept coming on and off the field. May have been cramps. He was putting in the work, though. I spoke with one of his teammates today, and he's practicing tonight, trying to see if he can play tomorrow. He really wants to be with his team, and you can tell how much he loves the game of football by the fact that he was, trying to battle through his injuries, even though they were constant. He could have easily surpassed the 200-yard mark if injuries hadn't held him back. I mean, first offensive play of the game for Reedsville, broke out for an 80-yard touchdown like it was nothing.
What about that quarterback Al Lee and the job he does?
He did well. There were obviously jitters for it seemed like every player on both sides of the ball, but he helped guide Reedsville, and he stayed cool and calm under the pressure in that crazy fourth quarter.
I never saw any pressure at all for Kendra Harrison. It's like every time he comes out there, he doesn't need any pressure. He's got the body, he's got the package, offense, defense. He just takes over the game and says, I'm going.
I mean, there's a reason he's a 5-star prospect. He's got about a D1 offer from every D1 team in the country, it feels like. He had 5 catches for an average of 17 yards per catch, and they weren't easy. He had to battle for it. His yards after contact were through the roof. It took an army and a tank to bring him down every single time he got the football in his hands.
It seems like, from his standpoint, it's not just off. He also does defense too, doesn't he? Play some defense also.
Yes, he had one of the winning plays of the game.
Talk about that play.
Broke up a pass in the fourth quarter that could have gotten into the hands of one of the players for Western Alamance and could have potentially ended up tying the game. So not only is he a massive presence on offense, he also saved the game on defense.
Talk about these two defenders. I see Paul Weiderman and Aiden Mansfield. Those guys put out some pressure last week, too, on the defense for their side for the Reedsville Rams.
They both had 8 tackles, and what they are is consistent. They are doing something on every play. They never take a day off. They never take a play off. They are always trying to get that man down. Aiden Mansfield had a tackle for loss, and both Mansfield and Weiderman, if you're playing offense against the Rams, you're terrified of them.
You're going to find those guys. They'll be on you right quick.
Yeah.
And I saw today somewhere on Twitter maybe where Mansfield was named like a defensive player of the week for Reedsville this past week, which is big for him too.
I'm not shocked. I mean, all of the defense seemed to be playing well for both teams, but there were just some unlucky breaks, as I've mentioned, throughout the game.
What about this week? Got the big Page Pirate matchup this week. Last year, Page was the only team to knock off and defeat the Reedsville Rams in the regular season. What about Page, the Pirates, and the Rams this week? You'll be at that game also.
Yes, sir. There's going to be some bad blood between the two. Page, it would be an upset for them to pick up the win once again this year. I mean, Reedsville's got that chip on their shoulder. Page is 98th in the North Carolina Max Preps rankings and 17th in the Greensboro area, while Reedsville is 22nd in North Carolina and they're also 4th in the Greensboro area. It would be a huge win for Page. They're coming off a very tough loss to Dudley, but Dudley's one of the best teams in the state. And some might say that Page underperformed last week, but some might argue that Reedsville also underperformed. But you can't judge too much when it's the first week of the season. I think you mentioned it in one of your articles that the second week is the biggest week.
It's a telltale sign of what you really got that second week. You see what the guys who lost, what they're willing to do to get back and try to win that one game. If you go half and half after that first loss, I mean, you're still there. But if you come out and play well the first week and say, oh, well, we got this wrapped up, it's going to be ours all the way, I mean, you got to play hard every week. You want that week number 2 is where you show people what you really have. And back what you talked about with the Page Pirates team kind of underachieving in some ways, when they were playing Dudley, I can almost put something down on the table. Page would have beaten Dudley in that game because Page was driving early in the game for a touchdown. They got picked off, and that changed things there. Then all of a sudden things changed too when the Dudley quarterback comes in the game. Andrew Atmore the second for Dudley. The start quarterback didn't play the first quarter in 3 minutes of the second quarter. If he doesn't come in the game, Page may well have won that ball game. Page, the running back, Maurice Andrews, outstanding running back. You'll see a lot of him tomorrow night, I'm sure.
Likely I will. And as I mentioned, there's going to be some bad blood, and the second week of the season is always the one you want to win. I also mentioned that Reedsville may have needed that gritty loss last week. Last year, it was the second week of the season when Page gave Reedsville that gritty loss. And, Reedsville used it to propel them.
That West game could well be a good game for Reedsville because it shows
what they
got to work on. They'll be more prepared having a challenging game one to go out and blowing somebody out 63-0 or something like that.
Yeah, it's much better to go ahead and get that tough game out of the way like they did last year to Page. And they used that momentum all the way to the playoffs and the state championship, and we're just a field goal away.
Football in Focus from the Tee It Up Indoors, Davis Troxler's fine facility on Battleground Avenue, along with Jay Ramey. Jay, how long have you been covering sports? Now, you're like 15 years old. We call him the Phenom, the child prodigy, coming in with us from GreensboroSports.com. And how long have you been doing this now?
I made my own WWE newsletter when I was about 12 and ran that for 3 years.
What kind of newsletter?
A WWE one, professional wrestling.
You're full-time. You probably watched our website. We just had a death of Terry Funk yesterday. Terry Funk passed away.
Yeah, I read that.
It's kind of interesting how you got started there with WWE wrestling.
Yeah, COVID hit, and, free time on my hands, I started watching wrestling, and I said, I want to write about this.
That's kind of how Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller, the guys who write those dirt sheets, they call them the dirt sheets in the business. That's how those guys got started. Those kids in their basement writing stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
It started out as just a notebook, and then I moved it to Google Docs. But also with sports, I did something called the Lucky's Ledger on Substack. Summer Collegiate Wood Bat League, I color commentated for them and wrote some articles on Substack and ran my newsletter. If you put in your email, it would go directly to people's inboxes for every game for the Reedsville Luckies.
I'm kind of hoping maybe get you on some Greensboro Grasshopper games next year, too.
Yep.
Help out some
I've been enjoying doing some baseball coverage.
We're doing a good job covering the Reedsville Rams and Rockingham County for us now. As we begin to close things down, we talk about Reedsville versus Page, Reedsville versus Western last week, the Warriors and the Rams, and also the Pirates and Rams this week. Talk about the Rockingham County other review. Review the other schools, what they did last week.
It was a tough week for some of them. McMichael fell to their fellow Rockingham County team, Rockingham, the Rockingham Cougars, and it was 20-7. It was kind of one-sided. Rockingham had the lead the whole game, and if it wasn't for a garbage time touchdown, it would have been a shutout, 20-0. But it's just the first week. Moorhead had a tough game too. They fell 28-0 to the Cummings Cavaliers. But next week, Rockingham and Moorhead, tomorrow we've got another county rivalry game, and Rockingham lost to Moorhead 41-21 last year. So they'll be wanting to avenge that loss. We've got a lot of vengeance games this week, including Reedsville versus Page and Rockingham versus Moorhead. Rockingham, their game with Bryce Baker leading the charge, he's a two-time all-conference quarterback, helped them shut down McMichael. He had a rushing and a passing touchdown, went 9 for 13, led the team in rush yardage with 57. And, I mean, it's obvious why he's a two-time all-conference quarterback. But as you look around, McMichael with Jace Dunn and Jaden Moore and defensive end Hayden Meeks, they had a tough loss, but they can easily rebound. I mean, we saw last year Jay Stun had a couple of tough outings. In those games, McMichael lost, but when he plays well, he plays extremely well. They were 6-2 with him last year and 1-2 without him. So he's definitely a player you need. Jaden Moore, the running back for them, he had 22 rushing touchdowns and 6 yards per carry, over 134 yards per game. It was fantastic what he was able to do.
Talk about this for me. Can you rank them? Rank the Rockingham County teams right now. We know Reedsville's going to be at the top. Rank the rest of them.
Reedsville's at the top. It's the first week, so you can't really decide it. But Rockingham, last year they struggled, and they missed the playoffs. But 7 of their losses, I believe, were one-score games, and those can go either way. They were kind of like the Minnesota Vikings, but backwards. Mm-hmm. And they easily could have been 7-3. They got on the wrong end of it sometimes.
Rockingham 2?
Rockingham number 2 right now. McMichael there at number 3, but McMichael and Rockingham can easily shift back and forth. But Rockingham, they just beat McMichael in a one-sided game. Moorhead's going to come in at last, but they're young. They've got a couple of sophomores. It's too early to judge too many of these teams. I mean, we all thought that Reedsville was handily going to beat Western Alamance, and that was a boxing match. To be honest, you can't judge too soon.
All right, give me a prediction on your game tomorrow night. You got Reedsville versus Page. That's at Reedsville and that new turf they've got there this year.
Very nice field. Very nice.
Eric Teague, new coach there this year, took over for his dad, Jimmy Teague. So give me a prediction on tomorrow night's game. Kind of go ahead and give me a score. We can just say, Reedsville's going to win. That's not enough. Give me a score in that game tomorrow night. What's Jay Ramey's runner for tomorrow night? What's that going to be?
I got to think about it. I definitely have Reedsville winning. They're more comfortable with themselves now. There's a couple injuries. Deontay Neal, Flip weren't playing last week. We're not sure if their running back Cobb is going to be there, but he likely will be. I'd say 35-17.
35-17. Mark it down. Reedsville over Page. 35-17. Jay Ramey, first time out. Outstanding work. We're going to see you again here in the future. You'll be back again with us in a couple of weeks. We'll see you again at GreensboroSports.com late Friday night, early Saturday morning. It might be Saturday morning, maybe around 9 or 10 we get it up there, because he actually goes and puts all these details together and makes it a much better article. Great job last week. Keep it to work, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here tonight. Jay Ramey from Rockingham County, Reedsville Rams.